All right, guys, I want to welcome you to the Dirt School Podcast. This is the first episode that's ever been filmed for YouTube of the Dirt School Podcast. I don't know if you guys have been listening to it over on Apple Podcast or Podbean, Spotify, whatever. I hope you'll go over there and follow it as well and share it with all your friends. But we're going to start videoing all of these podcast episodes. And I've got some great guests that are lined up coming up pretty soon. So pretty excited about that. But wanted to jump on here and just introduce you to the fact that I'm going to start filming all of these and putting them on YouTube. So if you look at my channel and you see a video come out, you'll be able to tell immediately whether it's just a hunting video, a how-to video, or the podcast. And of course, you can click on the podcast link on YouTube and you'll be able to get to it immediately there. But I do want to say this as well. Happy Memorial Day to all of you. I hope and pray that while you're out there enjoying all the things that you got going on today, that you will remember that there were some brave men and women over the years who have given their life so that you and I can enjoy the freedom that we have. So enjoy the barbecue, enjoy the lake, all that great stuff that comes along with that. But remember, the reason why we're able to do that is because somebody gave their life to protect our freedom. So I wanted to give a disclaimer about that. But then also, I wanted to just kind of say for a minute that I don't know if you've heard this or not, but the duck call legend, Phil Robertson, has passed away. We got word yesterday that he had passed away, and very saddened in our hearts about that. Phil just lives up the road about 45 minutes from us, an hour. And my son actually had the opportunity to work with Phil for a couple of years there at Duck Commander. And he actually tells a story that the first thing Phil ever said to him, they were in a duck blind one morning and they just had a volley of wood ducks come through and they shot the ducks, got a few, and then it got kind of slow. And Phil just turns over and looks at him and says, "Well, cameraman, what do you think about Jesus?" And that was his first words that he ever spoke to Hunter. So pretty interesting guy, man. He was definitely a guy that loved the Lord and loved the Word of God, and he just lived a simple life. He kind of made famous the slogan, "Love God, love your neighbor, and hunt ducks." And that's what he did all of his life. And of course, now he is standing before his maker, his king, Jesus, and saddened by his loss here on this side, but thankful that he knew exactly where he was going when he died. So if you guys would just keep the Robertson family in your prayers as they plan his homegoing celebration and all of those things that come along with that. Now, today, what I want to talk to you about is recurve hunting. I want to just share just for a little bit how I got into recurve hunting and why I'm so excited about this coming up year. I guess it was about 15 years ago, one Christmas season, I told my wife, I said, I think I want a recurve. And so she bought me a Martin Saber 55-pound recurve takedown bow for Christmas. And I was super excited, man. I started shooting it immediately when I got it out of the box. And I got good enough with it that I thought, I could kill a deer with this thing. And so I took it out to a hunt in Arkansas, and I had a bait pile out there. I had an old doe come in, man, about 45 minutes before dark. And she was doing what they normally do in the South when they come in. They're skittish and they're looking around for everything. Like they know a booger is in the tree and fixing to get them, So she's looking around. And of course, I'm a nervous wreck and I'm staring at her head. And long story short, I ended up taking 2 shots at this doe and missed her both times and just shot right over the back of her head. I just don't know how I missed that bad, other than the fact that I had to be just staring at her head. And so therefore I was just instinctive shooting, and I was shooting close to her head, which is ridiculous, but that's exactly what happened. So after that little experience, I decided I wasn't going to hunt with it anymore. So I just kind of put it down, and it sat probably in the closet for about 7 or 8 years. And then a little while ago, maybe, I don't know, 5 years ago now, 4 years ago now, I decided that I was going to break it out and hunt with it again. And so I did. And the first year that I hunted with it, man, it was brutal. I'm talking about brutal. Let me see if I can remember exactly what happened. I hit a doe high, and she was at like 6 steps, and I hit her real high above the spine. She takes off running, the arrow falls out, and obviously I don't kill her. So that was the first one I shot at that year. Then, like the next day, I went back to that same spot and a 3-point came out. I shot him right at dark, thought I made an outstanding shot on him. I go back all the next day looking for the deer. I couldn't find it. So strike two. And then later on in the season, I went to another place and I gut shot a doe, and I looked for her all day the next day and couldn't find her either. And so you can imagine I was deflated by the time I got to that particular point in the season. So I put it up and I didn't hunt with it for the rest of the season. And then the second year that I decided to hunt with it was a new year, it was a new season because, and I was excited about it because I changed up the way that I was shooting. At first, I was trying to do instinctive, just muscle recognition, memory, and just pull it back and shoot, stare a spot down and shoot it. I just wasn't accurate that way. And so I heard about gap shooting. And so I started practicing gap shooting and I got better at it. And then I heard of something called string walking, to where you could adjust your gap, not on the front with your arrow, but on the back in your string. And so once I started doing that, I got more accurate. And then I figured out that you could do what's called a fixed crawl. In other words, you could crawl down the string to a specific point and you can mark that point on the string. For example, on my bow, I've got a knocking point down the string below the arrow about an inch. And if I put my fingers there and I pull back, I can point my end of my arrow at what I'm trying to hit at 15 yards, and it's going to hit every time. And so I started shooting like that. And so I can remember it just like it was yesterday. I was preaching a revival in Pineville, Louisiana, and we kept getting these pictures of a huge 8-point coming out to the feeder in Kansas. And so as soon as the revival was over, me and my buddy, we decided that we was going to take a quick trip to that particular spot. And the first evening in, it was probably about 5 o'clock. I heard the gravel pop in and a car came by and slowed down. And I'm assuming that he was looking at this big buck crossing the road. And about 15 minutes after that car drove off, this big buck comes walking into the feeder, and I draw back and let the arrow go and just made a great shot on that deer. He ran about 300 yards and piled up, and we found him right after dark. And that was my first traditional archery kill, and it was a 143-inch 8-point in Kansas. I mean, just a stud of a deer. So that was year number 2. So needless to say, year number 2 was a whole lot better than year number 1. And so the next year rolls on, and I'm a guy that loves a challenge. And so I decided that I was going to make my own longbow and try to kill a deer with it. So I went through that process, which was cool in and of itself. But I got the bow made, and my first trip to Kansas, I climb up in my saddle, which was my first trip on this particular lease, my first hunt with that longbow that I made, and then my first hunt in a saddle. And probably about an hour and a half before dark, a doe starts coming in, and that's all I'm looking for. I just want to shoot a doe with this bow that I made. So she starts walking in, and she gets a little bit skittish, and I could tell that she's looking out in the woods. Something's probably coming. And so a few minutes later, I see the dark colored legs of a deer walking, and I feel like it's a buck. And sure enough, when he walks out, I notice that it's a huge 10-point. Just the body on this thing was huge. He just sagging in the front. And he walks in, and he's about 10 yards, and I just need him to look the other way. And so he looks the other way, and I draw back, and I smoked him, and he runs about 35 yards and falls over dead. And so this is year number 3. I've made a bow with my bare hands, and now I've killed this deer with this bow. So I was so excited to walk up to that deer, just like a little kid, It was a 135-inch 10-point. And I was pretty ecstatic about that. And so that was year number 3. Year number 4, I didn't kill anything with any kind of traditional gear. I hunted with it a little bit, but I just didn't have any luck. And so last year was year number 5. And I kind of made up my mind that I was just going to try to kill a mature buck here in Louisiana around my hometown with a recurve. So I broke back out the Martin Saber 55-pound takedown bow, and I started hunting with it. And man, I'm gonna tell you, it was a tough season. I had a difficult time trying to get on a buck. I saw does nearly every time I went, but I just couldn't get on a buck until late December, I think it was. I finally had a deer on camera on a little piece of property that I just gained permission on. And I had no idea that deer was going to come in. I hunted in this spot once or twice already and saw a few does and yearlings. So I go back in there, and I didn't shoot them the first couple of hunts. So I go back in on the third hunt. And at this point, I'm just like, man, I want to shoot a deer. So I'm thinking about shooting a doe if it comes in, which I'm terrible at. A lot of times they come in and I just try to talk myself out of it. And then I end up not shooting a deer. But this evening I said, I'm going to try to shoot a deer. So I go all evening long. I hadn't seen anything but 2 coons at this point. And then right at dark, right at last light, I hear something pop, and I turn and look, and it's a really nice buck comes walking in at 10 steps. I draw back, I shoot him. I feel like I make a perfect shot, and but I give him overnight. It was cold enough for him to lay. Give him overnight. Go in the next day, me and one of my buddies, and I'm telling you, when we walk up on this deer, I am so excited to have killed this deer with this traditional archery gear right here in Louisiana by my house. It wasn't the biggest buck that I'd ever taken, but it was a mature deer. I think it was a 3.5-year-old deer, which is certainly a good deer for here where I'm at. He scored 115 inches. He was a solid 8-point. And man, I was just excited about it. Just super excited. And to be honest with you, after I killed that deer, I didn't care if I shot another deer the rest of the year. I still hunted, but it didn't matter to me. I was fulfilled, right? Target acquired. So pretty excited about that. But I will say there are some things that I did learn this year, primarily hunting with traditional gear. So if you're a person out there who's maybe just starting to hunt with traditional gear, or you've been hunting a little while, this is some stuff that I learned about hunting primarily with traditional gear this past year. One, I learned this: it takes a lot of patience to shoot a deer with traditional archery equipment. A lot of times you'll have those deer come in and they're just not close enough to shoot. Like, you can reach out there and touch them at 35, 40 yards with a compound bow, but with that traditional bow, you just can't do that. So you just got to sit there and watch them and pray that they come in close enough, which really makes you think about how you set your stand up. You want to think about how far you're setting your stand away from a trail or away from a feed tree, which is typically how you want to hunt with traditional archery. Find a good feed tree or find a good pinch point that has a trail coming through it, some sort of funnel, anything that'll help you get as close as you possibly can to that deer as he's naturally coming through. So you got to be patient, though, to let that happen for you. And it's just hard sometimes. That another thing I learned this past year was you got to be still, very still. And the reason why is because the deer have to get so close to you in order for you to get a shot. So it doesn't matter if you're up in a tree or if you're down on the ground. You've got to be still. You've got to be patient, and you've got to be still. This past year, I was hunting on the ground, and I was hunting a trail that I knew that the deer were using from the previous year hunting in that particular spot. And so right before dark, man, sure enough, a doe comes traveling down that trail, and I'm sitting on the ground underneath a big bushy tree that's kind of hanging over me. But buddy, I'm talking about that deer saw me just like that. And I was trying to be still, but she caught me moving ever so slowly to turn my camera on to video when she came by the trail. And so it's just hunting with traditional archery equipment is tough. It's hard. You got to be still. You got to be patient. But the thing about that is it just makes you a better hunter, in my personal opinion, because it makes you have to pay more attention to detail. to get closer to the deer, to do more scouting. One thing that it taught me this year was better woodsmanship, to try to learn the places that the deer are naturally using so that you can set up right there in that spot, and maybe have a good crack at one. So I don't know, man. It's just something about traditional archery equipment. I remember years ago, one of the things that got me interested in it was watching some YouTube hunting videos of guys that were shooting deer with traditional archery equipment. I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a YouTube channel called Leatherwood Outdoors, I believe it was. And I just remember watching those videos, and it wasn't like it was the greatest production or anything like that, just some regular old dudes in Pennsylvania, I think it was. And they're just shooting stuff with traditional archery equipment. And I just got enthralled by that. So I got passionate about it. Now I'm even more passionate about it, especially since I've been able to shoot some really nice bucks with it. And, I got to thinking about this the other day. I've killed 3 really nice bucks with traditional archery equipment, and I've killed 0 does. And so maybe my goal this year is to try to kill a doe with the traditional archery equipment, since I haven't done that yet. So I don't know, just something very interesting to do, hunt with traditional gear. I said this year that I was going to give my compound bow away and just strictly hunt with traditional. I think I'm still going to do that. I haven't really made up my mind fully on that yet, but I'm leaning toward that. But I don't really know. But I do know I will be hunting with traditional archery equipment more than I'm hunting with the compound, and that's for sure. I got on a new club in Arkansas this year, and so I'm pretty excited about trying to go there and shoot some does and just shoot whatever. I just want to shoot some deer with my traditional bow. So I have noticed also in the last couple of years that a lot of your social media hunting influencers have started hunting with trad bows a lot more. And so pretty excited about watching some of them on their journeys of trying to get some good deer. And if you're out there and you haven't tried it, man, I want to recommend that you try it. There's some great guys to watch out there. Of course, you can go to the Leatherwood Outdoors that I'm talking about. You can go to Clay Hayes bow hunting, and you can watch him. He makes a lot of bows and hunts with the bows that he makes. You can go to the Stick Boys. I believe they're in North Carolina, South Carolina, somewhere like that. You can check those out. And then one that I would highly recommend that you go watch is obviously Hunt Real Outdoors. You can check that out and be able to watch that too. But I'm very interested in following Jared Mills and watching him try to get a deer with recurve. Jared is one of those guys who is well noted in the industry. He worked with Midwest Whitetail for a long time, and he's now doing his own thing on YouTube. And a couple of years ago, he started trying to kill a deer with traditional archery equipment, and I've loved watching him. He hasn't done it yet, but he sure is trying, and I love watching him because, number one, he's very particular, very passionate about bow hunting, but he has some of the best footage out there in the industry when he's filming. So anyway, I encourage you to go check those guys out. And certainly, I hope that you'll share this video and that you'll get excited about all of the episodes that are coming up on the Dirt School podcast. Today is just kind of a little bit of an intro podcast. It's a happy Memorial Day, pay tribute to Phil Robertson, and just talk about my season this past year and what I learned about traditional archery hunting. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Be looking forward to a podcast coming up with Sean Luttrell of Heartland Bowhunter. Be looking for one with Cody Keys of Heart Shots Devotionals. He's a minister here in the local area where I'm at. And he just wrote a devotional. I encourage you to go take a look at that out there on Amazon. But anyway, those two guys I've got scheduled coming on. I just did one here recently with Josh Sparks of Midwest Whitetail. And so I'm going to try to get that one on video. Had a little bit of an audio issue there, but I think I'm going to be able to make that work. So just be looking for it. It's going to be awesome. And I always appreciate you guys tuning in to the channel. I hope you enjoyed this, maybe learned a few things, just caught up with what's going on in my life, and be following along. I'm going to try to put one of these videos out every Friday from here on out. Today, I'm putting this out on Memorial Day, but from now on, every Friday, I'm going to try to put a video out, and it'll be 3 different kinds of video. Sometimes it'll just be me talking about different things. Sometimes it's going to be me and a guest. And then sometimes it's going to be more of a documentary style where I'm talking about some historical things and people who live their lives off the land here in rural America. So should be good. I appreciate you. God bless you. And we'll see you on the next one.